Shortly before new restrictions shutting bars and restaurants came into force, there were several days of violent protests across Italy. Now, experts believe the Mafia may be behind those acts. Criminal organisations are believed to be attempting to capitalise on the current economic difficulties of businesses, presenting themselves as an alternative to the state. Well, let's find out a little bit more. Let's go to Rome to speak to our correspondent, Giorgia Orlandi. Giorgia, very good morning to you. What are some of the concerns then about how criminal organisations, particularly the Mafia, are trying to sort of use the coronavirus crisis, the lockdowns and also the protests that have happened to sort of pursue their own ends?
Good morning, Rosie. Well, yes, Italy has seen a recent wave of protests. Certainly, the pandemic has presented an opportunity for the Mafia, especially when it comes to those companies and businesses that have been affected by the crisis, that cannot cope with the effects of the crisis. And the Mafia really seem to operate according to a specific pattern. They lend money, and when the money cannot be returned, that's when they're going to take over such companies. This is something that happened quite frequently, Rosie, back at the time of the first nationwide lockdown in March. But now we have seen something new, something different. Criminal organizations have now taken to the streets. We've seen peaceful protests that have been called by categories of people, such as business owners who've been affected by the latest restrictions, that continue to be infiltrated by fringe groups, football hooligans, right-wing groups, but mainly criminal organizations, including members of the Mafia. And Italian authorities believe they have the evidence that the mob planned and organized such demonstrations, especially the one that took place in Naples, following specific strategies as well when it comes to actually infiltrating such protests. Now, I had the chance to speak to Giuseppe Antocis, the president of one of the main centers here in Italy doing research on the Mafia. I asked him to tell us why such organizations have taken to the streets. Take a listen.
They
take advantage of these peaceful protests that have been called by business owners who are concerned about their future. Members of these organizations turn these protests into violent riots. They want to show they represent an alternative to the state, and they want to prove that they are there to help these people, making them believe that the state doesn't care about them.
Che li aiutano e lo Stato che invece non se ne occupa.
Now, Rosie, according to Italian authorities, the situation might get worse in the coming weeks. That's because of the combined effect of the curfew together with lockdown restrictions. These will increase police checks on the streets and will limit the mob's freedom to operate. And this is why, actually, this could result in an increased pressure on such businesses that are going bankrupt. So these people, business owners, are the ones who are going to pay the highest price. The question is how long this will go on for and whether or not these restrictions are going to be extended. Rosie?
Giorgia, thank you very much. Our correspondent there in Rome.